Hey, welcome back, everybody. Great to see you. Hopefully, we're having a wonderful middle of the week out there, and we've got a lot to talk about today as this Thanksgiving storm system really begins to ramp up, and we begin to feel those impacts this evening and especially into tomorrow, where all-out winter storm conditions could be ongoing for many folks across portions of the Northeast and into the Great Lakes. And that's really just the start of what is going to be a very snowy pattern with feet of snow and brutal cold on the way for many folks over the next 10 days. So we're going to break all that down for you in today's video. Now, if you haven't already subscribed, go ahead and do so. Many of my viewers are returning viewers who are not subscribed. It's just easier on you if you go ahead and subscribe, hit the bell for the latest notifications. That'll make sure that you're one of the first to hear about when a video is uploaded. You'll be the first to see that latest model guidance and a breakdown of that guidance. Also, if you like the video, go ahead, hit the like button and comment. Let me know where you're watching from and if you have any fun Thanksgiving plans coming up on the horizon. Alrighty, folks, with that said, let's go ahead and dive into things and start breaking down what we're seeing out there. Now, right now on satellite, this is the infrared loop. And you can see kind of the flow across the country. It's actually pretty zonal right now. We have this big storm system that is now up into Canada, kind of swing on through, and there's the associated front with it. Now, that is going to be very important because this is going to eventually, after all this cold air from our next storm system moves through, is going to push a lot of that cold air over these Great Lakes. And we're going to see a ton of lake effect snow. Again, we're going to be counting the totals in feet in many places here before all is said and done. And really going to be the first big lake effect event of the year. And these Great Lakes are also at record warmth right now. So the instability factor here is quite, really off the charts compared to what we're used to. So, we could see some thunder snow. We could really get it all out of this setup. Now, what's happening on the ground right now? Well, things remain relatively quiet in the east. We've got a couple snow showers and rain showers left over portions of New England from that storm system yesterday. But really, most of the active weather right now is in the central plains where our storm system is getting going. Low pressure beginning to develop and deepen here in our classic Colorado low location. And because of that, we are seeing some pretty good snow into portions of Colorado, even kind of a little bit of a short wave bringing some snow up here into portions of the Dakotas, Minnesota, and even a little bit of ice mixing in with some rain here into portions of Nebraska and Kansas. And then even into parts of northern Missouri. So definitely becoming more active today as we move further ahead into time. And you folks out west, I know, don't faint, but it's actually kind of quiet for once. You guys have had quite the active stretch over the past little bit, but luckily, for you at least, that active weather is shifting off to the east, and your Thanksgiving will actually be pretty nice. Now, in the Northeast, we now officially have new winter storm watches up for the anticipation of these winter storm conditions. From our Thanksgiving winter event here. We've got those watches up into portions of the Catskills here, not far from Utica, kind of, into this less populated area of New York State, but still, obviously, we've got plenty of viewers in here. So definitely get prepared. Same for you folks up into Vermont, New Hampshire, including Concord, New Hampshire, and surrounding areas, winter storm watches into effect, and special weather statements kind of in the surrounding region. But I do expect more winter storm watches to get added up here into Maine as we go throughout the day today. Now, another place with winter storm conditions expected is just south of Buffalo, all the way back down to Erie, and even just off towards the northeast of Cleveland, including, I think it's Painesville here is how you pronounce that maybe, and all the way up the coast, again, past Erie, PA, and then into southern areas of Buffalo, including Dunkirk, New York. So lake effect, again, it's going to pick up here, and even up here into the UP of Michigan and western Michigan, we're going to see those lake effect conditions. And I do expect watches, warnings, and advisories and all that fun stuff to be added on the map within the next day or so. Now, other than that, just some active winter storm warnings out west for what's currently happening. But again, that's pulling away. So, by the time many of you are watching this, the worst of it will be over out that way. So let's go ahead and time out this storm system a little bit for you here. Again, this is kind of our current upper level map, and we're going to combine meteorology and minutes with this. So we're going to kind of kill two birds with one stone. But right now we've got what is a big upper level low. And, I think what we're going to talk about meteorology in minutes right now is what is the difference between an upper level low and a surface low pressure. So surface low pressure is what you normally see on your weather maps. If you pull up the map and you see all the fronts and all that, that's what the surface low is, where you see kind of your warm front and your cold front combining. But even in the upper levels, we have low pressure. And that's what this is right here. Again, you can even see our closed isobars here. So it's really just a pocket of cold air in the upper levels. That kind of sometimes can break away, or they call them cut-off lows from time to time. And this is probably a pretty good example of that. You can kind of cut off from the normal flow of things. It's not necessarily a trough. Again, it's kind of this closed area. So again, you can get low pressure in the upper levels. You can get it at the surface. And that's, I think, a great example of that. So, definitely put that in your back pocket and remember for the rest of the winter when we have more of these cut off upper level lows. But we go further ahead into time and we time out kind of what's to come here. And you'll notice our storm system and our jet stream begins to amplify a little bit. So this is this evening. You'll notice wind speeds picking up here across the Ohio Valley as that cold air to the north kind of crashes with that warm air to the south. And again, this is another little meteorology in minutes tidbit here. Anytime you get really cold air in one area and really warm air in between, the winds are always going to pick up in between, as a difference in temperatures creates a difference in pressure, and that difference in pressure creates wind. And that's why we're getting kind of this jet streak in between. So there you go. You kind of got 2 in 1 for meteorology in minutes today. But either way, you'll notice the jet stream again amplifying, digging, and becoming more, troughed here as we go into your Thanksgiving afternoon. You'll notice it went from more of kind of a zonal pattern to a little bit more of a meridional pattern here. And that tells me that this storm is beginning to strengthen, beginning to get stronger. And unfortunately, that's going to be just in time Thursday afternoon to promote severe weather risks through the south, winter storm risks towards the north, and heavy rain and some pretty gusty winds along the I-95 corridor kind of in between here. And what's also going to happen is this upper level low is actually going to be stacked with a surface low. So that means that there's going to be low pressure in the upper levels and at the surface at the same place. And that's going to really crank up the winds along the Great Lakes. And that's when the lake effect will really begin to hit overdrive as this front swings on through Thursday afternoon, Thursday evening, and then even into the weekend. And you'll notice that low pressure is not going anywhere with this very favorable fetch pattern, as we call it, just meaning that the winds are going over a long distance of the lake or of the lakes. You're picking up a lot of moisture, picking up a lot of instability, and then dumping all of that moisture and instability over land once it hits those normal kind of trouble spots. All right, so first let's talk about the severe weather threat, because this is not something I want you to ignore by any means. Really, even starting tonight, we have a marginal risk of severe weather through portions of Alabama and Mississippi, and that does include the threat of a nocturnal tornado or two. So make sure you have a way to get those watches, warnings, and advisories, but I really think the worst of it is going to be tomorrow afternoon. And right now, we're still just running a marginal risk, but I would not be surprised at all. And in fact, if I was making the forecast, I would probably put a slight risk probably right into this region for tomorrow, into the eastern Carolinas and southern Georgia, where we're going to have some pretty good instability and some high wind shear. And I think a couple tornadoes are very possible for your Thanksgiving afternoon. So you're going to want to have a way to get those watches, warnings, and any kind of other alerts that may be issued for your area for Thanksgiving afternoon. Again, I know a lot of folks are going to be thinking about snow on Thanksgiving and rain, but severe weather, unfortunately, will be a concern this year here into much of the Mid-South. So if we go ahead and time that out for you a little bit, you can actually see it pretty well. Let me back this map up just a tad. So this is this afternoon, pretty quiet, a couple showers out into the western South through Mississippi, even up into Tennessee and the Ohio Valley. But you'll notice as we, I'm going to kick this ahead in a time, overnight tonight, some showers begin to develop, even a couple rumbles of thunder overnight tonight from Tennessee back down into Mississippi, Alabama, and North Georgia. So a small severe weather threat overnight tonight. Again, not off the charts, but worth mentioning. It's tomorrow, though, for Thanksgiving afternoon. This is waking up in the morning here, about 7 a.m. Eastern. You'll notice here's our cold front. Well, here's our center of low pressure. Here's our front draping all the way back down into Alabama and Mississippi. And this is going to have plenty of time to cross east throughout the day. And as it does so, we're going to really build up the instability values here into the eastern Carolinas, southern Georgia, and a lot of kinematic support, just meaning a lot of wind shear in the atmosphere with this setup. And with any little bit of instability, you're thinking here, all right, 12 p.m., there's not much showing up, Gerald. What are you talking about? But look at what happens. We get that afternoon heating, and we've got this line of convective storms developing from even southeastern Virginia all the way down to Georgia into the Florida Panhandle. And these are some feisty looking storms, folks. And this is right around the time you're cutting the turkey. This is 5 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m., 7 p.m., 8 p.m., beginning to cross off into the Atlantic and clearing out during the overnight. So, maybe my suggestion would be get people at your house if you're hosting something earlier in the morning and then have them leave a little bit later. Might be the safer bet instead of kind of traveling during the stormy activity. Just keep an eye on it. It's not something you need to be overly worried about. I'm not saying cancel your Thanksgiving plans. Now, if you have outside plans, maybe bring them in. because it's going to be pretty heavy rain there for a minute. But if we look at kind of the severe weather aspect of it a little bit more, this is our updraft helicity. So this is where this model is projecting rotating updrafts, which are generally stronger storms and more likely to produce tornadoes. Where is it saying it's going to be most likely? Right in that area I told you. Eastern North Carolina, southeastern South Carolina, the PD, the low country, up into the Sandhills and into the Outer Banks. And even southeastern Virginia. I would not be surprised to see a couple strong storms. That gets all the way down into Georgia. And I would add as well the Florida Panhandle. It's not, on this map, but even down there, I would watch out for a couple strong to severe storms. All right, that's the severe weather aspect. I know nobody wanted to hear about it, but unfortunately, it's something we have to talk about. What about the winter weather aspect? So let's go ahead and start this out this afternoon, and you'll notice we get into this evening and kind of our low pressure beginning to work through southern Missouri and surrounding areas, and we are getting kind of a band of some precipitation to work up into Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio. And I tell you, you folks in this area, talk about a back and forth forecast. It really has been. One second it looks like snow, the next it looks like rain. So I think probably the safest bet for a forecast is probably a rain-snow mix, and you'll see why. As we go through the evening hours, some of that rain transitions to snow, and we could pick up a quick dusting, maybe even upwards of an inch in some of the grassy and elevated surfaces. The good news, the roads are still pretty warm, and the ground temperatures, the surface air temperatures rather, are in the kind of mid 30s. So it's not below freezing. So it's less likely that this would stick to concrete and some of those more heat absorbing surfaces, but you could see some flakes fly and maybe waking up to a quick dusting on the ground in this part of the country. But by the time we're getting to 7, 8 a.m., most of you out here are clearing out outside of the lake effect. This is when it begins to pick up. UP of Michigan, a very snowy, squally kind of Thanksgiving here. Same for the northern mitten here of Michigan, and even just the western coast in general, going to have the chance at some snow throughout the day on Thanksgiving. You'll notice I get this into the afternoon. That snow continues. These snow squalls continuously working on through. And not letting up, and that snow is going to begin to accumulate very quickly. This gets us all the way overnight Thanksgiving into the wee morning hours of this coming Friday. Now, what about the Northeast? This is where it's a little bit more of a mixed bag of snow, rain, and a little bit of everything here. So here we go. This is overnight tonight into tomorrow. This is about 1 a.m. Eastern. Snow beginning to break out into the higher elevations of northern Pennsylvania, specifically northwestern Pennsylvania, into southern New York State. The Catskills getting in on that. And then by the time we're getting up about 7 a.m. or so here, maybe you get up a little earlier on Thanksgiving. Either way, snow again into the interior higher elevations of the Northeast through northern Pennsylvania, southern New York State, even into upstate New York, and then into Vermont, Massachusetts, the mountains at least, or hills of western Massachusetts, and up into portions of New Hampshire seeing that snow. Now, I-95 corridor, you'll notice, all rain for this. Not a very warm rain either, probably in the 40s for you folks in Philly up through New York City as you're getting ready to go see the parade. And it comes down pretty hard and heavy late in the morning. This is about 10 a.m. Again, snowing good in the interior Northeast, raining good along the coast and along the I-95 corridor. And that continues throughout the day. Now, we will clear out west to east. This is about 1 p.m., clearing out through much of Pennsylvania, New Jersey beginning to clear out, and that cold front sweeping in behind and cooling down quickly for your Thursday afternoon. But it's Thursday evening that this low pressure begins to deepen, strengthen, take advantage of some more instability in the atmosphere and become stronger. And this is when winter storm conditions will really begin to pick up through Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, even portions of eastern New York State here seeing very wintry conditions. And the storm continues into the overnight, and you'll notice an all-out winter storm through Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, into these interior locations. And what do you notice happening behind it? This is, again, overnight Thursday into Friday. That lake effect machine cranking up big time with snow squalls from Cleveland up through Erie and into Buffalo. Now, this looks a little bit more like kind of a multi-squall event right now, at least at the beginning, at the onset, compared to maybe a single band. So we're going to see a lot of areas that pick up some snow in this area, in this region. So do not let your guard down. That will be on the way. Now, it could shift to more of a singular band kind of setup later on into next week. Again, I mentioned this lake effect isn't going anywhere. But to start out here for your Friday, it looks kind of like a multi-band setup. And there's a better word for it meteorologically that I just learned not long ago that is not quite coming to my brain. So I'll have to hit the textbooks on that one. All right, snowfall. So this is just now through Friday morning. So this is not really even including the big lake effect that's on the way. This is really just the storm itself for Thanksgiving. And you'll notice again a dusting, maybe a little bit more here into this band from Illinois into Ohio. Not really any travel impacts out of that, I don't think. But worth mentioning. And then definitely this is some lake effect up here into the UP of Michigan, into the northern mitten, and down the west coast. The UP, specifically the eastern UP here, we're talking half a foot of snow between now and your Friday morning. Maybe 3 to 5 inches, half a foot up into the northern mitten, and then probably a dusting 1 inch to 3 inches up and down the west coast of Michigan here for the, again, next 24 hours or so. I guess this is 48 hours rather. So that's this area. We go further east now and get into the northeast. Oops, sorry, I went way ahead in time on you there. Same story. This is Friday morning. You'll notice, we've got some snow that will accumulate into northern Pennsylvania, southern New York State, even up into the Adirondacks, down to the Catskills. Again, very elevation dependent. This is not going to be, a valley kind of snow event. This is really going to depend on your elevation. Same story further north, but I think we get a little bit more cold air getting pulled behind the storm up here into Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine, and the storm beginning to strengthen and deepen. So probably the highest snow totals up into this region, half a foot to a foot, very possible on some of these peaks. Elsewhere, maybe 3 to 5 inches. Honestly, I still think probably 5 to 8 inches for most of us. But going to be a good snowstorm for sure, especially for Thanksgiving standards here. So, going to be seeing the snowfall as you're kind of doing all of those festive activities up in this part of the country. All right, so what's after this? Obviously, we've got the Thanksgiving storm, but, this is a prolonged pattern. So what's coming on down the pipeline? Well, a couple things. One, again, the continuation of big-time lake effect snow is going to be something that we need to watch out for. Like I said, this low pressure parked in a very favorable place, and just wave after wave after wave of energy kind of rotating around this low is going to bring plenty of lake effect. Another little piece of energy, though, is expected. Let me move this ahead in time. You'll notice this weekend, plenty of lake effect happening, but by the time we get to Saturday, a little kind of Alberta clipper of sorts swings down out of Canada. And watch this and watch the path that it takes. Dive south through this cold air, getting into Missouri by Saturday afternoon, into Tennessee and Kentucky by Saturday evening, and then even into the Appalachia chain by overnight Saturday into Sunday. That could produce some snow as well. So we got to time this out for you and look at the latest GFS model for this time frame. Again, this is Thursday afternoon. This is that Thanksgiving storm. That pulls on out of here. Lake effect increases big time Friday afternoon. Overnight Friday, still seeing that lake effect. And by Saturday morning, here comes that little Alberta clipper. We've got snow falling in Kansas City for your early morning hours on Saturday. It's a pretty quick mover, as these clippers normally are. Again, they're kind of riding the jet stream, which is absolutely ripping it here right now due to this cold air. But again, could dump a quick burst of snow here through Kansas, Missouri, getting into St. Louis maybe by Saturday afternoon. And then you'll notice it fizzles out a little bit and does weaken. However, this is one of those setups that oftentimes can kind of overperform. So you folks in Tennessee, Kentucky, even the mountains here of North Carolina and Virginia, do not be surprised to see this hold on and come by and produce a quick inch or two of snow before all is said and done. And it's possible that maybe a couple flakes make it over the mountains. You folks in Virginia, North Carolina, maybe northern South Carolina, a couple flurries this weekend out of it. Not out of the question. Now, we would not see travel impacts very likely in these areas, but something worth mentioning. And then after that, what happens? It just keeps on snowing in the north. We've got more lake effect and more lake effect and more lake effect. And guess what happens? More lake effect by the middle of next week. In fact, another clipper system coming down, bringing even more lake-enhanced precipitation. So it's going to be a very active pattern into the Midwest and into the Northeast, at least in the snow department. Now, everyone's going to see the cold here east of the Rockies, but the snowy pattern right now looks mostly confined up to the Rockies, or excuse me, not the Rockies, the Midwest into the Great Lakes and into the Northeast. Now, this is snowfall through the next 10 days. When I say the lake effect pattern is going to last a while, this is what I mean. 10 days from now, how much snow are we talking? Well, again, we're going to be counting it in feet, folks. 2, 3, 4, 5 feet of snow up here into the UP of Michigan along the shoreline is going to be very possible up here into the northern mitten. Again, 2, 3 feet of snow, and then probably more than a foot of snow up and down the west coast of Michigan. You'll notice, though, even outside of there, we've got a couple clipper systems that are going to work on through. So areas outside of the normal lake effect regions, even up here into Wisconsin, watching for these clipper systems, seeing what they can do. And it's going to be plenty cold enough, so this will stick any snow that does fall. Same story for the Northeast. The normal trouble spots, the Tug Hill just south of Buffalo into Erie, kind of between Buffalo and Cleveland. That corridor are going to have the highest chance of significant lake effect snow, meaning feet of snow up here into Canada, into the Ontario area. Also going to get plenty of lake effect off of Huron, and it's going to be an active pattern for sure. Now, how much snow from that little clipper system? I'm going to kind of zoom things out. This is snow now through this coming Monday evening. I'm going to show you a couple models, and I'm doing this because there's still some questions to be asked, and I think actually a 10-to-1 ratio on this system isn't that bad of an idea to use. This should be a pretty close kind of metric for how much snow should fall from this one. So this is the UK Met model. Again, what I want you to notice is kind of the path this system takes. Right into this region, and the heaviest of it getting into Missouri. You'll notice even kind of another area getting squeezed out into the mountains of North Carolina and Virginia and West Virginia there. That's the UK model. This is the European model. Again, a little different on the track here, but you do still see that clipper system. The Canadian model, again, a little different on the track, but you see it showing up. The GFS model, again, same story. And then I'll even show you the Icon model. So you get the idea that I'm trying to kind of push home here is there's still uncertainty with this storm system, but we're confident it's going to happen. Now, how strong is it going to be? What is the exact kind of route it takes? That's going to be something we need to get more into mesoscale model range for, but I am expecting some snowflakes to fly through Missouri, Kentucky, maybe as far south as Tennessee and as far west as the North Carolina, Virginia mountains. And then again, cannot rule out a couple flurries, maybe making it over the mountain chain and getting into, the Piedmont and foothills of North Carolina and Virginia. That could very well be possible. Now we put all this together and we get the blended models. What does it say? Well, it says the most likely area to see that snow is going to be into Missouri and then down back into Kentucky, kind of through this corridor. And I think that's a fair assessment right now. But again, one of those things you're just going to want to come back for and stay up to date on. And again, look at all of that lake effect happening. This is just now through Monday even. This isn't, the 10-day out map that it was showing you. So plenty of snow on the way. Now, what else is coming? Well, plenty of cold as well. So we'll move this ahead into time. This is this weekend. You'll notice this is Thanksgiving afternoon and morning. A quick burst of heat in the south. That's going to lead to that severe weather potential, but the cold coming in quickly behind it, and it locks into place. This is this weekend, and the refrigerator or the freezer opens up, and we get kind of thrown in it, and it stays that way, folks. This is all the way through next week. Stays cold, stays well below average, and you'll notice this kind of comes in waves. Little waves of, more below average temperatures. And that's going to get enhanced by these little clipper systems that work on through. And kind of what's happening, if I back this up for you, last week we had cold, and you remember, that brought all the snow. That was a cutoff area of cold. That was kind of a little cold air mass that got broken off the jet stream and parked in one place. This is very different. You'll notice we have kind of a clear pathway all the way up to the Arctic here that is just continuing to funnel this cold down into the eastern United States. So this is going to be prolonged. This is not going to be just a day or two of cold. This is going to last a while through at least the next 7 or 10 days, maybe even longer than that. All right, so another question I've gotten often, and a question that, trust me, I'm looking for myself, is can we get some snow outside of the Great Lakes and outside of the interior Northeast? Right now, again, besides that clipper system I showed you, I'm not seeing anything big showing up on the models that suggests the Southeast or the I-95 corridor is going to get any significant snow out of this pattern, at least, through the next week or so. Now, behind that, things will change. Let's take a look at snowfall chances. So this is this weekend, plenty of lake effect snow. There's that little clipper showing up, again, going into your Saturday into Sunday. And then another little clipper system by early next week. This is Monday into Tuesday, showing up on the European here. That could, again, maybe get some snow that breaks containment. You're seeing some of these snow chances along, kind of east of Virginia and North Carolina. That's, it's not going to be a big storm, though. It's going to be these clipper systems that maybe overperform a little bit, get over the mountains. Now, sometimes they overperform a lot, and we do get snow well into the Piedmont, outside of the mountains. But right now, that's something we need to just get closer in time for into mesoscale range. And you'll notice this same pattern continues. Little clipper system after little clipper system. This gets 10 days from now. And then after that, the models get a little bit more all over the place, and you see snow chances in more places. But that's pretty common for the models at that kind of length out into time. So the overall theme right now is lake effect and brutal cold. That's going to be the main kind of idea, I think, over the next week or two. Now, after that, could we get some snow elsewhere? It's very possible. We'll watch these clipper systems, see what they do and where they go for sure. Alrighty, folks, that's all I got for you on this Wednesday. Hopefully you enjoyed. Hopefully you have a great rest of your day. Stay safe out there. I'll see you all tomorrow.